The religious try to convince us that their imaginary friends are real, but they fail miserably time and time again. Why? Because they don't actually care about the truth of the matter, only the comfort that they might get from the attempt, and that's just dumb. But dumb is kind of what they do, isn't it? So, here we go again. Today, we're going to check out a video by Jesse Speaks called I Tried to Convince an Atheist That God Exists. No, he doesn't say that he succeeded, which I think we expected up front. Trying is not being successful, and the religious fail far more than they actually get someone else to believe. So let's take a look at the video and see if he gets anywhere close to a logical, rational, or evidence-based argument. And I think we all know that's not going to be the case, but hey, let's go see.
As an atheist, do you question God all the time? And if you won't be honest with me, at least your algorithm will be, because this is the video for you.
Bet it's not. But hey, I'll take your challenge anyhow. See if you can convince me that your God is real, and I will be perfectly honest about it. So back to the question that he asked. Do I question God all the time? No, I don't even think about your God or any gods most of the time because there's no evidence that they're real. I also don't question the flying spaghetti monster or leprechauns or unicorns for exactly the same reason. I'm just fine living in reality because there's no reason to take your God claim seriously at all. Now, I'm willing to be proven wrong, and maybe he'll manage to do that, I don't know. Although, based on his upvote to downvote ratio, that's not looking promising. But hey, let's go see what he has to say, because I'm willing to bet it's not going to be impressive.
So now that I have your attention, I want to be very careful with it and share something with you. First off, I'm a Christian, and I'm going to talk to you about God.
Well, surprise, surprise. Now, I can't speak to him personally since I haven't seen his video yet, but these people normally can't stop talking about their gods, right? You don't have to announce it. We expect it. It's just that almost without exception, your claims are empty and your arguments are nonsensical, and we wind up laughing at you because you're just making a fool of yourself. I'm not projecting onto this guy because, again, I haven't seen it yet, but it's hard not to expect to fail because that's all we've ever seen. So get to your attempt to convince an atheist. Hey, I'll be your test subject if you want. I'm willing to bet that you're not going to be successful, but let's see.
And you don't have to believe in any of this whatsoever. In fact, God gives you the choice to believe in him or not.
But that right there is just an empty claim. This is where the religious tend to go wrong, and I'm just calling it as I see it. They make assertions about what their gods are like, and we don't have any reason to take those claims seriously. Just because you say it, that doesn't make it true. Just because you believe it, that doesn't make it true. We expect better than that, and sadly, the religious never have better, do they? You need to be able to justify this stuff beyond, I really, really like the idea, and my book says a thing. Those will never, ever impress us, and if that's the best that you've got, you've lost before you begin. So, back to the video, I guess. Hopefully he's got something worthwhile, although I'm certainly not holding my breath.
So let's just cut the small talk. Have you honestly ever asked God to just show himself to you?
Yep, nothing happened. Now, this is about the time, and I'm not saying that this is what he's going to do, because how the hell would I know that? But for most theists that I try asking the same question, they tend to just assume that if you didn't get the answer that they want you to get, you did something wrong. You weren't honest about it. You didn't really want to hear anything. Well, of course it's not going to work. The problem can't be God, so it's got to be you. Nope. I've done that many, many, many times, and never once have I ever gotten a demonstrable response, and really, nobody else has either. At least not that they can prove to anyone else. It's always, I heard a voice in my head. And they have no means whatsoever to show that said voice came from any god or anything but their own brain, nor can they rationally discount all of the other possible explanations. They just really like the idea. But that doesn't mean anything. So let's get back.
Don't get mad at me for that, it's just a question.
Nobody's mad. You asked a question and it's been answered. Usually, though, it's the theist that gets mad at the response, not the other way around, because they are starting from the preconception that their imaginary friends are real without having any evidence whatsoever that they are. They just really like the idea, and that's where they typically go wrong. Liking the idea doesn't mean anything. You have to be able to show that the idea is true objectively, and they're not even trying to do that. Maybe this guy is, I don't know, we're not there yet, but I have yet to see a single theist in my life ever that could provide a sufficiently evidentiary baseline for their claims about their gods. They just really want to believe, and that is never going to be enough.
And if not, I just ask you to be honest with yourself, your own existence as a human being. You're probably super smart, very analytical, and you know what's going on in the world today.
Let's not be so condescending, okay? Now, he's already kind of set up his defense, if you noticed. At least be honest with yourself. That way, when you don't come to the same conclusions that he has, the ones that he really likes, he can just accuse you of being dishonest. This is very, very common. I, however, am honest, both with myself and with others. If I am not convinced by a proposition, I can point out what you are doing wrong, such that I am not convinced by what you say. Once he actually gets to something worthwhile, and hopefully that's going to be soon, I will be able to explain exactly why I can't take it seriously. Assuming that's what happens, and at least in my experience, that's always what happens. I am not coming to any premature conclusions here. I've just seen everything in the religious playbook, and I am absolutely not impressed.
Because you love information. Believe it or not, I do too. Even being a Christian. I'm just trying to build a bridge with you. Have you ever just looked up into the night sky and you were just like, God, where are you? If you're real, reveal yourself to me.
Yep, still done that, and nothing at all happened. I mean, maybe not that dramatically. Screaming at the sky is kind of a crazy thing to do, but yes, I have asked that question, and I have gotten no identifiable response. Now, the typical answer from the theist is, you didn't really do it, because they can't accept that you didn't get the same response that they supposedly did. But it isn't that they got a response from a god, at least not demonstrably so. They heard a voice in their head, probably just an internal monologue. They assumed that it was a god because that's what they've been brainwashed with, and they just accepted it uncritically because that's what they were expecting to happen. But that doesn't make it true though, does it?
Or maybe you're on the calmer aspect and you're kind of like, all right, God, if you're real, let's see what the big hype's about. Whichever type of atheist you are, the truth is you're looking for truth, right?
Yes, I am looking for truth, no matter what that truth turns out to be. You are looking for God, or at least most theists that I run into, that's what they're after. They are looking for confirmation that all of the things that they've had shoved into their head since childhood are actually true. But that doesn't mean that they're true. Now, this is where I wanted to look at the video itself. I've been doing that a lot lately because it tells us a couple things. It's been out for more than a year at this point, and he's only gotten 1.3 thousand views. That's kind of pathetic, especially for a channel with almost 500,000 subscribers. Pretty much every comment in the video is from an atheist calling this guy out, and he has almost a 3-to-1 dislike to like ratio, so this is pretty typical. You'd think that these people would actually learn from their failures, right? But they never do. I'm sure this Jesse guy is still saying the exact same things to this day. If anybody wants to go and look, please feel free and report back to the group. So far, this has been completely unimpressive. Because of course it is.
And if you've never done that, then you're actually being dishonest to yourself, because that means that you've never checked all the boxes to get to the point of actually asking the right questions.
And there he goes, doing exactly what I predicted he would do. You're not being honest. No, you just don't like that we're not coming to the same conclusions that you do. I mean, seriously, if a theist wants to convince me that their God is real, there's only one way that they can do it. And that's to provide direct, demonstrable evidence that their God is real, and no one has even made an effort to do so. Why? Because they can't. They're too busy making excuses for why they can't pony up the proof that their beliefs are actually true. Because they don't care about that, do they? They just really like the idea, and that is positively stupid.
And you have agreed to the lack of effort in finding God to begin with, which in this case, you probably never even made it to this part of the video. Because if not, then that means you're being completely dishonest to your whole existence, and that wouldn't really be fair to, well, anybody, especially you.
So let me get this straight. Now you're talking to people that you don't even think are watching. That's kind of dumb, isn't it? This is where we start to get the idea that he's not making this video for us. He's just pandering to the choir and saying things that he thinks they want to hear, because I'm not really convinced that he tried to convince any atheists of anything. Except his own stupidity, but he's doing that right now, isn't he? He's certainly not making a good showing here, and that's kind of the problem. They like to talk about how they tried, without ever demonstrably putting in any of the hard work. Trying is not succeeding. The Great Commission doesn't say, hey, give it a shot and give up if you don't immediately succeed. Religion is all about making excuses for why you fail, and it's never, ever, ever your fault. No, it's pretty much always your fault. Sorry. Get it through your head.
What I'm trying to say is, you should try. Otherwise, you'll never know. Then you would want to put yourself in the position to ask these questions.
Stop harping on and on and on about things that don't even apply to me or most atheists. Why? Because he doesn't care about atheists at all. He knows, at least on some level, that whatever he's got to say, that's not going to impress us. But since he's got to pretend that he's making a good faith effort, that's all he's doing. Pretending. And making money on YouTube. That's what this is all about too, after all. So, sure, I guess I'll play along. God, if you're out there somewhere, prove it to me in some unambiguous way that proves that it's actually you and not a coincidence or some other God or whatever. Go ahead. See? Nothing. Nothing happened. Not a damn thing. But you'd think that a God that actually wanted to have an active relationship with mankind, he wouldn't be waiting for us to ask, right? He'd just be doing the thing that's going to convince us all. But nope, nothing. Same as all the other times I've asked. And yes, I asked seriously. I know he wouldn't accept that, but I did. So, is this all there is to it? Because I'm going to be really disappointed if it is.
And I'm trying to let you know that I've asked those questions, that I let my guard down, I became vulnerable to the idea of God, and it was the greatest thing that I've ever done in my life.
I'm willing to bet that your delusions didn't come out of the blue. Of course, I could ask if you've done the same thing with Allah or Zeus or Odin, whatever. Have you ever asked honestly if those gods were real and if they could prove their existence to you in some demonstrable way? I'd bet not. So why did you just pick Christianity? Because you live in a Christian-centric culture. Because your parents were most likely Christians. I don't know this guy, but that's probably the truth. Because you were surrounded with Christians. That's usually how this goes. That doesn't make the action rational, though. But rationality isn't what these people are after, is it? That's why they fail when talking to atheists, even pretending to, because atheists are not irrational, by and large, when it comes to believing in a God. We're not going to just believe on faith. we're going to ask the hard questions that he's pretending to ask, and we're not going to stop asking them until we get solid, demonstrable answers. That's why the religious fail, because they deserve to.
You have to ask God wholeheartedly. You can't have ego. You can't have pride. The situation might even look like you're just sitting on the floor looking up at your popcorn ceiling in your room, and you're just like, God, I don't really believe in you. But if you are real, can you show me that you're real, and show me in a way that I myself could never deny it?
And now it's obvious that this whole video is just about talking to yourself. So yes, God needs to prove himself to me in a way that I could never deny it. And I'm still waiting. Nothing has happened yet. But that's really the problem, right? The religiously deluded are far too credulous. They are looking for a God, whereas I'm only looking for the truth. I want to know what's really out there to the best of my ability to currently find out. I have no vested emotional need for it to be a God. If there are super powerful aliens out there, something like that, I want to know that too. The religious tend to strongly desire a God because it makes their emotions tingle. And I'm not at all like that. So I need something a hell of a lot better than, well, it could be. And that's all that they're going for. Sorry, I am not like you. I am fundamentally better when it comes to critical thinking and rational evaluation. This is why you fail, and you should.
And to be honest with ourselves at this point, we're going to give God the benefit of the doubt that he is doing something.
No. That is not how this works. If he does something, then he does something. And until I see something that can be rationally interpreted as doing something, he isn't doing anything, at least not for the purposes of this experiment. You cannot presuppose that this God thing of yours is real until you have the evidence to support it, and that's all this guy is doing. Why? Because this video isn't for us. The comments on this video prove that conclusively. Either this Jesse guy doesn't know anything about atheism, which is likely, or he's lying and just pandering to his existing followers. And he cannot be taken seriously at that point, because anyone with a clue would know this is never ever going to fly with non-believers. But he doesn't care about non-believers, does he? No apologist does. This is just, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I could find a gullible idiot in their midst that I can convert and get a lot of attention out of it? You're running out of gullible people, which is why religion is failing so miserably. Jesus, guy's an idiot.
At this point, I want you to pay attention to all the little coincidences that are going to begin to manifest in your life.
Nope, that's not going to work. I didn't ask for coincidences. I asked for evidence. I think at a minimum, God would need to show up in person at this point. Like you said before, it would have to be undeniable, not just, hey, maybe. That's not going to impress anyone. So, God, where the fuck are you? Strike me down with lightning or something. I mean, do anything, you pathetic wanker. And of course, nothing. Nothing at all. Because that's what happens every time I do this experiment. Your God, if it exists, is powerless. Why should I give a damn about that? Now, of course, he'll have excuses. But you're not serious. I absolutely am, and it shouldn't matter if I was or not. If this godfucker of yours wants to be known, then he ought to be able to prove this unequivocally to everybody on the planet without us having to ask. And because that never happens, and they have even more excuses for that because they know it's not going to happen, then I've got no good reason whatsoever to believe. Jesse has failed once again. What the hell else is new?
And since I said to be real with yourself, that means be real as in like you know the issues that you have. So let's say you're addicted to pornography.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I'm not. don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, have been married for more than 32 years to the same wonderful woman, don't have any real vices that I can think of. I don't have to make these excuses. I have no real reason to care if any gods exist, other than wanting to understand the real world around me to the best of my ability to do so. Because ultimately, that's all this is. He wants a God to exist, so he feels good about himself. I just want to know the truth. I am not going to be part of his fan club unless he demonstrably exists first and can be shown to be worthy of my respect, which, let's be honest, the Christian God is a complete douchebag. I'm not looking for something to bow down to, and neither should anybody else. And I'm sure he's got excuses for that one too, doesn't he?
Ask God to help you get out of that addiction. Let's say you cuss too much. Ask God to help you to stop cussing.
Fuck you. Because there's nothing at all wrong with that. I mean, seriously, what the hell is wrong with these idiots who don't understand how language works? This is just sounds that we make with our mouths that can be understood by others. There's no such thing as bad language. It could be inappropriate in the moment, but there's nothing wrong with it, nothing bad about it. This is just you being a moron. Knock it off.
Ask God to break yourself down to a point that you will see him more and more in your day-to-day life.
But that doesn't prove that any gods are real. This is just asking you to make something up in your head and assume it's got to be a god because it makes you feel good to think that it is. But that doesn't mean that it's the Christian God. It could be an Angole, the Philippine god of lost things. It could be Robagus, the ancient pre-Roman god that represented rust and crop blight. Or Anoia, the goddess of things that get stuck in drawers, at least according to Terry Pratchett. You don't just get to assume that your God done it, and that's all that's going on here. If you can't prove that your specific deity is real, then we are not going to be impressed. That's why these morons get trashed so badly. Because they deserve it.
And once you start establishing these tiny little steps one by one, you will see, just like in math, 1 + 1 = 2. You will begin to see that there is an intelligence outside of your own realm of understanding.
But that doesn't make it your God, does it? This is really where they go wrong, so let's just break it down before we quit for the week. Just because you really like the idea of your specific God, that doesn't make it your God that done it. He says, you'll see an intelligence, which isn't remotely the case, but for the moment, let's just go with it. The only thing you can say about that intelligence is what you can prove about that intelligence. And the religious, they can't prove anything. That's why they require faith. That's why if I ever did get a response to the whole, God, are you there? It's me, Margaret thing, you can't say that whatever I might have contacted is your God. You can't say it's a God at all. All you can say is, well, I think there might be something there. And you can't even say that rationally until you can rule out all of the other natural explanations like brain damage and delusion. And good luck on that. He's expecting you to leap to the same emotionally comforting conclusion that he has, and that's just stupid. This is why none of these videos about finding God actually find anything. You can't even get to a God without proving that that God is objectively real first, and they're not even trying to do that. This is just, it sounds good to me, and that's just dumb. So, we'll come back in a week and finish this up, but don't expect it to get any better. I'm kind of surprised that it's as bad as it is, honestly, but who knows what the future might bring. The only way to find out is to come back next week and we'll learn the truth together. Or we'll just watch abject stupidity, and I think that's probably the more likely case. We'll just have to wait and see. You can let me know down in the comments what you think, though, because at least we can prove those are real, right? Unlike his God. This is why the religious fail, but What the hell can you expect?